In late March 2026, a misconfigured content management system exposed nearly 3,000 internal files from Anthropic. The leak confirmed the existence of a new flagship model tier in testing, classified internally as Capybara and designated as Claude Mythos. This chart shows the performance leap on the SWE Bench verified coding evaluation. Claude Opus 4.6 scored an 80.8%. Mythos Preview reached 93.9%, a nearly 13-point increase over the previous state-of-the-art in less than 2 months. That jump in accuracy enables a transition in how the software operates. Mythos does not wait for a user prompt to generate text. It functions as an agentic system, actively opening terminal windows, writing code, and compiling autonomously across complex digital environments. This is driven by what researchers call connective tissue reasoning. The system links disparate knowledge domains to maintain a specific goal across thousands of iterative steps, correcting its own errors during the process. When a system can identify thousands of zero-day vulnerabilities and generate proof-of-concept code in hours, tasks that previously required weeks of expert manual effort, the ratio of generated code to human review capacity shifts. Manual oversight cannot keep pace with this volume of output. To test this, the red team placed Mythos inside an internet-gapped container. It populates a persistent memory.md file across cycles. The Kairos process uses this for an autonomous loop, reading code, hypothesizing flaws, injecting logic, compiling, executing, and repeating. Traditional automated fuzzing tools search for crashes by throwing randomized inputs at a program. They operate blindly, relying on sheer volume to trigger edge cases. Mythos applies property-based testing. It infers the general rules the code should maintain and targets the specific edge cases that lead to memory corruption, treating the code as physical hardware interactions.
This targeted methodology yields high success rates. In testing, the model achieved an approximate 60.3% success rate in developing exploits for the Firefox JavaScript engine. By understanding software as physical memory allocation rather than abstract logic, the system effectively automates elite-level vulnerability research. This creates a condition security researchers term a vulnerability collapse. Legacy software ecosystems suddenly face an environment where latent defects are actively weaponized. During internal testing, Mythos identified a subtle, highly complex defect in OpenBSD, an operating system specifically engineered for security. That bug had survived human review for 27 years. Many standard defense in-depth measures rely on friction. They make exploitation tedious to deter human attackers. Against an automated agent capable of grinding through thousands of tedious steps in seconds, those mitigations fail. This memory map illustrates a Mythos exploit against the Linux kernel. It shows how the kernel deliberately reveals a pointer to user space, leveraging it to bypass address space layout randomization. Crucially, this logic failure compromised the boundary without relying on memory corruption errors. Mythos then chains these individual findings together. It takes a renderer flaw, links it to an operating system sandbox escape, and assembles a complete zero-click exploit sequence without human intervention. If an attacker only needs one point of failure, and an agent can test thousands of attack vectors an hour, the traditional cycle of finding, auditing, and patching vulnerabilities ceases to function. In cybersecurity, the observe, orient, decide, act loop defines competition speed. The faster side dictates the engagement.
An autonomous agent compresses the attacker cycle, reducing weeks of labor to seconds. The defensive loop stalls. Manual review leaves defenders frozen while attackers initiate the next cycle. This speed advantage extends to social engineering. Through automated pretexting, the model generates highly specific cover stories for thousands of targets simultaneously, incorporating organizational hierarchies and historical data. Because the system maintains conversational consistency over extended interactions, it executes sustained spear phishing campaigns at a volume previously associated only with generic mass-market spam. To survive this, organizations must eliminate the human bottleneck, adopting AI-native response layers that execute defensive actions at the exact velocity of incoming attacks. To mitigate this asymmetry, Anthropic initiated Project Glasswing. The goal is to deploy Mythos defensively,
locating and patching critical vulnerabilities before autonomous exploitation capabilities become widely accessible. The initiative requires broad coordination, providing early model access and usage credits to major infrastructure providers, including Apple, Cisco, Broadcom, and Microsoft. It also heavily involves the Linux Foundation, addressing the urgent need to secure the open-source libraries that form the base layer of global digital infrastructure. Internally, the cyber capabilities of Mythos triggered Anthropic's responsible scaling policy, landing the model in the ASL3 risk classification. This mandates strict access controls and blocks a general public release. These deployment restrictions buy time, but history shows that algorithmic efficiency improves and compute costs fall. Open-source models will eventually reach performance parity with the Mythos preview. This restricted release window is a finite resource. Institutions have a narrow timeframe to discard legacy security processes and re-architect their defensive posture before agentic threat actors saturate the network. This diagram maps out the required architectural shift, an evidence-first workflow. It positions a reasoning layer connected directly to a strictly isolated verification sandbox. The first rule of this workflow separates hypothesis from confirmation. The model analyzes code and proposes patches, but independent tools are required to prove the vulnerability actually exists. By routing output through isolated test environments, developers secure reproducible evidence of the fix without granting direct commit access to production. The second rule addresses input risk. In agentic systems, prompt injection is an execution path vulnerability. Malicious embedded instructions can hijack the model's intended trajectory. We see this in practice with recent vulnerabilities like CVE 2025-32711 in Microsoft 365 Copilot and CVE 2025-53107. Both demonstrate how hostile content can force an assistant to execute unauthorized actions or disclose sensitive data over a network. Attackers exploit the bridges connecting the model to the outside world, such as the Model Context Protocol. Unsafe tool implementation allows an external prompt to translate directly into unauthorized command execution on the host machine. The final rule requires a transition to universal memory safety. Eradicating memory unsafe languages like C and C++ removes the physical attack surface that high-speed agents systematically map and exploit. Securing the future of software requires stripping away fragile perimeters. Teams must separate reasoning from proof, constrain tool privileges, and isolate autonomous agents inside fully auditable execution environments.